Yo, yo, what it do, man? Mic check 212. This is episode 7 of the Phone Home Sports, man. And yeah, man. Um, it's been a long night. It's been a long night for your boy. Um, just watched the Alabama Oklahoma game, of course. Then I watched the Texas Georgia game, and of course, if Georgia wins, that definitely just makes everything even worse. So I just watched that game. Um, watched the Texas A&M South Carolina game. Yeah, I mean it was a great day. It was a great day of sports, man. Those are three top tier games. Didn't really catch the Notre Dame Pittsburgh game, but yeah, man, it was a long 3 to 4 hours for your boy. And I came on here last weekend, and I got a lot of people who agree, with what I was saying about, Ty Simpson, and it was a lot of people who disagreed. And the my opinion never came from trying to disrespect Ty Simpson. It was really all in, like, the throne is for the taking. Like, this year, based off of what he's done, I felt like everything was, up to Ty. Like, I felt like he could have been the number one pick. I felt like Ty could have been a Heisman Trophy winner. I felt like we could win a national championship. Now that's still on the table. But yeah, I just felt like all those things were laid out for Ty just to take it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the quarterback scene is not as good as it was in years past. So I feel like everything was on the table for Ty to take, and I kind of feel like this was going to be the game to start that progression. And like I said, he's been regressing, and I felt like this was the game to start. You got the Oklahoma game, you got the next week, that's going to be a stat game, then you got the Auburn game, and then you have the SEC championship, and then you have the Heisman Trophy presentation. So I felt like he had a month stretch to take everything back, and I felt like Ty Simpson. I think the moment is too big. I feel like the moment is too big for Ty. I feel like there's maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome, and I say that because Ty been there for a long time. He's been there for a long time, and I just don't think that. It just seems like Ty doesn't play within himself. It seems like the moment becomes too big for Ty, and he's gonna force a pass. There's gonna be some type of turnover, and it's just so crazy because Alabama fans, they kind of destroyed Jalen Milroy, when he had his tough times. But man, it's like, bro, when Jalen Milroy was on it, like, he owned the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, he truly owned the moment. You talk about the games versus LSU. You talk about the games versus Georgia. You talk about the games versus Auburn. Like, he had some mess ups, and, I don't want to make this about Jalen Milroy, but he owned the moment, and I don't feel like Ty has owned any moment that he's been in. I feel like he's produced in the moments, but, it's just been a lot of plays that are left on the table that, week in and week out, you look up and Alabama only winning by one score, or 1 point, when in reality they should be up 2-3 touchdowns. That just hasn't happened this year. And, like I said, it's always something. It's always a turnover. It's always a sack that he's taking. It's always something that, and of course, there's the offensive line issues, And, people thinking that Alabama can't run the ball, which I totally disagree with. I totally disagree with that they can't run the ball. They don't run the ball. That's the problem. They do not run the ball. So, and we'll get to that later. But I just feel like Ty, he hasn't owned the moment, and I think that's a big problem with with Alabama. And that game today with Oklahoma, that wasn't Alabama dominated that game. Alabama dominated that game from start to finish. The only thing that they did not dominate was turnovers and field position. And field position cost them that game big time. It was not nothing else. It wasn't coaching. It wasn't the defense. It was turnovers, which, if we're being honest, Ty had 3 turnovers. Of course, that touchdown, well, not the touchdown, but the pick he threw in the end zone that got called back because of pass interference, but he wasn't even throwing to the guy that it was pass interference. So I'm giving Ty 3 turnovers and field position, and Ryan Williams, he had the punt return that he fumbled. All 3 of those plays. Let's for being technical wise, 3 of those plays were field position based plays, and that killed Alabama. Now you could say that's why Alabama dominated the game from a stat point of view, because of, I think Oklahoma had a short field maybe like 4 or 5 times. They started they started on their side of the field like 4 or 5 times. So, it definitely was, interesting to see how everything played out. I feel like Alabama dominated that game, but Alabama for the last 3 or 4 years, even under Saban, like there's a lack of discipline that Alabama doesn't have that they've had in years past. And of course, I don't know what's going on inside the locker rooms and day-to-day type stuff, but there's a lack of discipline that they once had, and that's not even from a penalty standpoint. That's from just missing your block, missing your keys and stuff like that. Like, it's just, and I can't even blame nobody else. I can't even look at Oklahoma and say, man, Oklahoma dominated that game. I can't even do that. Like, Alabama dominated that game from start to finish, but it was their own mistakes that cost them in the end. And I don't know, man. And, as far as Ryan Williams, I think the noise is, I think it's just, it's something is getting to him. And I think Alabama is not helping the situation or the coaching staff is not helping his situation, because last year they force-fed Ryan Williams the ball. This year, they're not force-feeding him the ball. So you can't really get that confidence because you're not getting the ball like you used to. And, I still think he's able to make those same plays, but they got more weapons than they did last year. So he's not getting those same opportunities that he did last year. And rightfully so. Like, Jeremy Bernard, he's been probably the most valuable player on offense, and Cuevas, as of late, has been the most valuable players on offense. So, yeah, man, I think it's something going on with just confidence. That's all I see. I think it's just a lack of confidence that, Alabama players do not have, from Ryan Williams to Ty Simpson. The offensive line didn't play bad to me. They didn't play bad to me. The running backs, they didn't play bad to me. I feel like they made the right plays at the right time. Jam Miller and Daniel Hill made plays, but the stat sheet is going to say otherwise. But one thing the stat sheet is going to say, Ty threw the ball 42 times. They ran the ball, I believe Daniel Hill ran the ball maybe like 10, 15 times. Jam probably ran it like 10 times. Anybody who knows that plays running back is a position that you have to build up. It's not just going to happen in 10, 15 carries. Like, you got to keep running that motherfucker. And Alabama is not running that motherfucker. You cannot run the ball and spot plays. Like, that's not how the running back position works. Like, you have to be consistent. So everybody who says, oh, Alabama can't run the ball, it's not that they can't run the ball. They won't run the ball. So I personally feel like they need to take some of that pressure off of Ty. They need to take some of that pressure off of Ty and put it on Jam Miller and Daniel. That's my personal opinion. I think they should take some of that pressure off of Ty because he can't handle the pressure. He's not ready for the pressure. He's shown time and time again over the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's not ready for the pressure. This has nothing to do with the receiving core. This has nothing to do with the offensive line. This has nothing to do with the running backs. Ty Simpson is not ready for the pressure, and that's okay. You can be the game manager. You can be the guy who just doesn't make mistakes. They could win like that. They can win a national championship like that. But as long as they putting the ball in his hand and want him to be Peyton Manning, they're not going to win. Simple and plain. It's not going to happen. Week after week, he's making turnovers in very critical situations. And like I said before, if this was Jalen Milroy, it would be plastered all over the internet. I don't know what it is about dual threat quarterbacks, and I don't want to, say it's the color of his skin. But if this was Jalen Milroy, everybody in the world in college football will be having a problem with it. So, that's that. And, I mean, hey, man, that defense, there's nothing really to say about that defense. I think Alabama has the best defense in the country. The best defense in the country. Now their pass defense, pass rush is a little, suspect at times, but I think that's the best defense in the country without any shadow of a doubt on all three levels. When you talk about the D line, the linebackers, secondary, I think that's the best defense in the country. I think Kane Woolmack is the best defensive coordinator in the country. He's proven it 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. So that's that, man. Everything is still on the table for Alabama. Everything is still on the table, but it's a little weird because now they have to win the SEC championship. You can't just go to the SEC championship. I think Alabama has to win the SEC championship because you beat Auburn. That's cool. You go to the SEC championship still. Everything is still in front of you. But you beat Auburn and then you lose to Texas A&M, you're a 3-loss team. I don't think that's going to really work. Now, I think that 4-game stretch that they did have, I do think that counts for something. But, I mean, a 3-loss team, and it seems like, we're going to have a lot of teams that have 2 losses, 1 losses. I don't know if they get in, So I feel like, they have to beat Auburn, and they have to beat Texas A&M. And from what I've seen today, Texas A&M, they might be the best team in the country. I mean, to be down 30-3 and still come back and win after halftime. And I think they showed a statistic like that's the first time since 2001 in 285 games that somebody has came back from 27 down. So, for what it's worth, man, Texas A&M, they might be the best team in the country, to be honest with you. Yeah, for what it's worth, I feel like Texas A&M, they might be the best team in the country. Yeah, man. Of course, Ohio State, man, I really don't. Ohio State really is nothing to talk about, bro. They really are nothing to talk about until a couple weeks until they play Michigan, and then they have their Big Ten championship. But other than that, like Ohio State is really nothing to talk about. Indiana, nothing to talk about. Like it's nothing to talk about. I mean, you got Oregon and USC next week. That's gonna be pretty good, but. It's really nothing to talk about in the Big Ten until the end. I don't really know. Of course, Georgia looks good. I mean, I like Georgia because Georgia, we literally have the same situation as we did last year with Alabama and Georgia. Alabama beat Georgia. And I feel like Georgia got better as the year went on. And I feel what happened with Alabama is the same thing. Alabama kind of got worse as the year went on. Like they became a lot more one-dimensional this year, and I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Like it's literally the same. And I think you you kind of can point that back to coaching. You know, with Kirby Smart. You know, having all these credentials and credence and his message and everything. And I think maybe you could point that to being why they project and do a little bit better than Alabama as time goes on. But they're definitely way better than Alabama at this point right now, in my opinion. I think they're clicking on all cylinders, and I hate to say it. And Alabama, I think Alabama is the best team in the country. I truly do. But it's nothing to think that if you don't, you don't you don't do it, and they won't put it together. I don't know what it is, but they will not put it together. They will not put all the pieces together. Oh my God, and special teams? Oh my God. Man, brother, if it's a 3-point game, do not depend on Alabama to win. Cause they kicker ain't making shit. The special teams, they not doing shit. Like, I don't know. And hey man, it's a funny season for Alabama. I think they got everything that they need to win, but they just won't put it together. But yeah, man, that's my little spiel for the day. We're gonna keep rocking and rolling. Y'all stay tuned. And keep following us with the Phone Home Podcast. Thank you.